Let's go. Another keep trade cut. I'm going to talk about some players that, look, let's face it, have been struggling at this point in the season. You got to figure out what to do. No sweat. Can you move them maybe in the trade market? Do you hold on and hope for better things, or just cut and let it go? And so today I have a pair of Zacks, a couple of Cubans, and some AT aliens that I've got to talk about and start in Atlanta. So everything is happy now that Ronald Acuna Jr. is back, but there's another outfielder who has not seen anything improve. It's Michael Harris II. After another 0 for 3 day on Sunday, hitting 222, got all of 3 homers, 9 steals on the season. You know, the weighted runs created is a good measure of how effective a player has been. He's at 57. And remember, league average is 100. I mean, this guy's been hurting the Braves. He's been hurting fantasy teams. But we know Harris, a young player, still only 24 years old. He's got speed. He's got power. He should be able to do everything. I mean, it's just a matter of time, right? Be a 5-category stud. He'll be fine, right? Look, I've been sounding the alarm on Harris for fantasy basically all season. Didn't draft him anywhere. I know the physical tools are there, but how many players have we said this about before, and it just hasn't come all together? And sure, there's still time, but here's what's concerning: the fact that Harris is still young, but somehow ever since he first burst onto the scene and looked like he could be a future stud, he's gotten worse each of the last couple of years. His numbers overall are going down, but especially the power. Like I mentioned, only a couple home runs, but every metric on StatCast is showing that he's just not hitting the ball very hard, and I don't see any reason to think that all of a sudden that will change. Look, let's be honest. If Harris wasn't on the Braves, then he would have been dropped in a lot of leagues by now. But this is one of those teams that, because of their recent success, because they do have so much talent overall in that lineup, you give them the benefit of the doubt, right? You think it's going to get better. And I've been saying this about Albies, about Olsen, about a lot of these players. And sure, things should get better with Acuna, but it doesn't mean that each individual player will perform better. I'm holding out some hope for Albies. Maybe he turns it around. At least he scores a lot of runs. He can drive in runs. But Harris, I mean, look, I'm just going to slap this label on him. Overrated. There could be some room for improvement with the batting average. He's got a 277 expected batting average. So sure, it could come up, but where's the power? It's not there. I'd like to think there's some trade value with Harris, if at all possible. I don't see it. Well, look, if you have some hard decisions to make, I'm going to say right now, you have Harris, you can feel free to cut him. Now, the one Brave that I think everyone has definite reason to worry about, including the team themselves, is the closer, Raisel Iglesias. You know, this does happen. Closers go through stretches where they get roughed up a little bit, and usually things even out. Iglesias has been a closer for several years now. You know, it's not his first year in Atlanta. Nothing that we think should make for any difference in 2025. But this feels a little different. Even though he technically only has 3 blown saves, I mean, that's not that much. There are plenty of closers who have done worse, especially earlier in the season. And we still given, you know, guys like Emmanuel Clase, you know, who still have held on to him, and he's fine. He's settled down. But Iglesias is now on a pretty prolonged stretch of just not looking like himself. He's given up at least a run in 5 of his last 7 appearances. So the ERA is unsightly at 5.75, and the whip is at 1.33. Look, again, this isn't the worst closer out there, but still, this is a team that they're trying to figure things out and turn things around for themselves. They cannot afford this. So it's not full-blown panic for me, but the question is, you got Iglesias, what are you doing? Well, I'm definitely benching him. I mean, that seems pretty obvious right now until things get figured out, but I'm going to go ahead and explore trading him because, again, the Braves might look at other options. There is Olds, used to be reliable, but familiar name, and Craig Kimbrell, he's kind of lurking in the minors. Maybe they give him a shot. So I'm not completely out on Iglesias, but at the same time, I'm not completely convinced that he's just going to be fine and settle down. So if you can afford to trade him now before things go south, I think it's fine. All right, let's move back to the outfield, this time in Texas. A lot of questions about Adolis Garcia. He's just one of those really frustrating players that you never know. Is he figuring it out? Is he not? You know, and he just come off the heels of 3 straight 0 for 3 performances. You felt pretty comfortable just dropping him off your team. And then the next day, he hits a home run. And then on Sunday, 2 RBIs. What's the deal? I know this frustration because I've been trying to, keep optimistic about him. I bought low on him in one league, and I don't know whether I should have him in my lineup or not. He was dropped down to 8th in the batting order, and we know the Rangers have been just a disaster. They can't keep the same lineup 2 days in a row. So many injuries, so many guys struggling. So, what do we make of Garcia? I'm going to try to stay optimistic here. Honestly, I'm going to keep him if I can afford to. And look, he's not universally rostered. About three-fourths of leagues, that number has steadily dropped as the season has gone on. He's shown flashes, right? He's still got the same power. Overall, the power is still there, right? The bat speed, the exit velocity, everything shows he's still got it. I think this really is more a situation of just the team and the inconsistency. They just can't field a consistent offense. Now, like Harris, he's also underachieving on batting average a little bit, but also on expected slugging by 69 points. But I feel much better about Garcia than I do about Michael Harris because he's a power hitter and we've seen him do it. He can hit 30 plus home runs. I think that's still in play. He's actually hit some home runs this year. He's just gone on some cold spells. Look, maybe Corey Seager coming back and maybe possibly actually kind of staying in the lineup for more than a week or two at a time would help. I'm not sure the Rangers are going to get their act together overall, but again, I'm going to tentatively say keep Adolis Garcia if you can afford to. And you know what? This actually makes a third straight Cuban player. No bias here just because I'm Cuban. Luis Robert. All right. Okay. Let's start with the positive. How about that? He just stole his league leading 20th base of the season. And okay, so we got speed, and then there's everything else. Like, I can't even try to sugarcoat this. Not only is he not helping you in the other categories, he is actively hurting you in batting average. There's some players, like let's say a Luis Arias, who you're like, well, he helps you in one category, but he doesn't really do much for the power in the other categories. But he doesn't take away, like subtract steals or home runs from you. Luis Robert, when he hits 190, as he's doing right now, he's actively hurting your batting average and lowering that stat for you. And with Robert, this is also just a continuation of last year. Not really anything different. And a lot of people are still clinging to the hope of 2023 when he went off, especially throughout the second half. He wound up with 38 home runs in that season, which is hard to imagine because he's only got 5 right now. But look, I got to say this. It's not like he doesn't have that power in him, but that season was definitely the peak, not only in that category, but I think for him overall, because he did enjoy a 24% home run to fly ball rate. Not going to be anywhere close to that. It's not just unsustainable, but it's way above his career mark. And let's just face it, we have to acknowledge the fact that being on a team like the White Sox has a lot to do with it. He doesn't get a lot of runners on base in front of him, doesn't have any lineup support behind him. Why would pitchers be worried, about pitching and getting him on base? All you can do is steal second, and then so what? Somebody really going to drive you in? Just to underscore again how actively bad Luis Robert Jr. has been, a 588 OPS. Again, we're talking about getting on base and the slugging, which we still think he's got, but he really hasn't. Bottom 12 among all qualified hitters. And oh, look who's there right below him. It's Michael Harris. But can you really just cut the player who's leading the majors in stolen bases? You could, but I will just say, again, the best option, if at all possible, is to trade him. I'm sure somebody out there is still clinging on to that season a couple years ago, the power upside, right? Maybe he'll turn things around. Maybe he gets traded and goes to a better situation. And sure, to some extent, that's all true, but you just can't have that albatross hanging on your neck of your fantasy team, dragging you down in the batting average category. And Zach, number one, this is a player I've talked about several weeks ago. Just got this question on a live stream. What do you do with Zach Gallen? Is it time to cut him? Well, no, because the time to cut him was a month ago. You have to just move on. Now, Gallen has been a steady, consistent performer for fantasy teams for the last few years, so it's hard to imagine that all of a sudden he's just worthless. But he pretty much is. And again, things have just gone from bad to worse. Over his last 3 starts, a 7.71 ERA, no signs of improvement. In his season long numbers, don't look, well, okay, they're bad, but they don't look like the worst. There have been worse pitchers, right? It's not like he's Tanner Houck or anything, but that 5.25 ERA is a little misleading. Here's a very weird, random, but true stat that I can't explain. So Zach Gallen has had 3 good starts, and they've all come against New York teams. Yeah, he dominated the Yankees in New York somehow, And then he's been really good against the Mets twice. Against every non-New York team that he's faced this year, he's got a 7.28 ERA. I won't go any deeper than that other than to say that, look, Gallen has not been good. He's hurting you in every facet of the game. I don't see any reason why he's going to turn this around either because, as I pointed out about a month ago, his numbers have been kind of slowly trending in the wrong direction. You've got to get out from underneath him if possible. It's too late to trade. Nobody's going to take him on. So just make that decision and let him go. And this one might be a little easier. So teams are already starting to let Zach Eflin go. If you haven't done it already, I think it's okay. Sure, he could bounce back. And look, Eflin hasn't been all bad this year. In fact, his first three starts were all quality starts. He was looking like himself pretty much. A stint on the IL, maybe that disrupted his flow, but whatever it is, he's just not the same pitcher, and I have some definite reasons for concern here. So his last two starts, he has gotten rocked. Like that goes without saying. Sure, he could get better and right the ship, but look at the season. Overall, his strikeout rate is way down. That K rate right now is 13.1%. That's among the worst of all starters. But another stat that I think is interesting and important, his ground ball rate is down, way down from 2 years ago. In fact, it's the lowest that he's been since his rookie season. That ground ball rate is down 11% since 2023. He's got a long career, so it's kind of subtle at first glance if you look at it in this form, but yeah, he's inducing fewer grounders, more balls in the air, more line drives, more home runs, and a lot fewer strikeouts, all told. That's a recipe for disaster, and that's what we've seen in the last couple starts. You sprinkle in the health issues he's had this year, and in another year of getting older, Eflin, I hate to say, it might be done. If you're ready to move on from those pitchers, don't worry. Always got some good replacements in mind for you. Check out the two-start streamer live stream that we did at the very top. You can find out all the best pitchers to add for this week, and that's right here.